So I just got a message from my friend William, who's my prison pen pal, and I was so excited to hear from him. He said, "Hope all is well in Berlin. Looking forward to hearing about your trip, XX." Um, but I don't even know if he's gotten my letter or not because I sent him a letter before I got to Berlin, and then I gave him a bunch of stamps for him to be able to mail something back to me. Um, and I don't know if he sent me a letter and he's writing this message on Facebook to me because he hasn't heard back from me. So I'm really bummed out because I have a feeling that he sent it to me and I just haven't gotten it. So I'm gonna have to send him another postcard, but I'm hoping it'll get to him sooner than later. But I guess I'll just respond to this message on Facebook. I'm just so bummed because just by the sounds of this, it sounds like he sent something to me. Hey, did you get my letter before I left for Berlin? Not sure if you sent me something here. I can't receive it. Realized my name isn't on the mailbox, so I'm kind of bummed if it got. So I'm not kind of bummed, I'm bummed if it got lost. Let me know. Was going to pop another letter in the mail this week. So, okay, well, I guess that settles that. I've never washed my feet more than I have in Berlin, and I think one of my friends could really relate to me on this. Never thought I would be saying that. I've never been much of like a feet washer. Like I take a shower or bath, but I don't normally get home and the first thing I want to do is wash my feet. Well, really, the first thing that I did was brush my teeth and wash my face, and then I got into my room and I knew I was going to get back into bed just to do this video and eat my breakfast, but instead I went to wash my feet. So one of my friends would probably be really happy that I just washed my feet, and I'm still wearing clothing from yesterday because I stayed the night at my friend Simon's place, and I kind of wish that I had just come home, but I mean, I had an interesting morning as usual, so I guess that's all part of it. I got on the right train, but going in the wrong direction for the first time this morning. So after I awkwardly walked over to see which direction I was going in, then I hopped off at Alexanderplatz and ran across the way just to make it in time to get on that train. So I finally made it back here, and now I'm eating this like awkward, well, it's really good, but it is a crazy looking pastry. I will show you. It's vegan somehow. I think these are plums. I don't know, it's really sweet, so you can't tell what kind of fruit it is. But so yesterday I had pretty much the best day. Well, I keep saying that. I had a really good day yesterday. Yesterday, Simon came over and met me at like 11 in the morning, and we went straight to, we just hopped on a bus. Our plan was just to keep on getting on buses, and after being on the bus for like 3 or 4 stops, it was so hot, there was no ventilation or air conditioning, and we ended up getting off at the Pankow, like S-Bahn, and I think we went 1 stop over or something, and he told me that there was this abandoned kind of station. Like the station was still functioning when you would get off, but there was this abandoned area, and it was crazy. I have to go get my film developed today because I've never seen, I don't know, so many things that I wanted to take pictures of. We went into like the main station area, and it was like this big circle, and there was all of these like flooded areas, and then we went, we just kept walking. We ended up like climbing up on the roof, and Simon ended up cutting himself at one point like on some glass, and that kind of ended our trip a little bit abruptly. But we also went into this other area that used to be, I don't even know, the first floor was like all bathrooms, and Simon walked in first and he said that it smelled like there was a dead something in there, like a dead animal or a dead person, and so I really didn't want to see a dead animal, but I wanted to walk in. So I walked in, and the first thing I said was that it smelled like shit. And I walked it a little bit further, and there was literally shit. Like, oh. And how funny. Simon just wrote me right now saying, sorry for having to wake you up. Hope the video is turning out well. He has really good timing for asking me questions about how things are going. Distracting me. What was I going to say? Yeah, so there was literally shit on the floor, and he like kind of lost it laughing. But then I kept going in there because I don't know, like even though it smelled like shit, and there was shit like it was an old set of bathroom stalls, and then there was just like shit on the floor, like in a couple of the rooms, and it looked like someone was maybe, I don't know, living there, or just someone was using that as a bathroom. So I took several pictures downstairs, and then I walked upstairs, and Simon was still outside. And once I got upstairs, I started to realize that there was actually someone living there, and I did not know if they were in that house or in that place at the time. But I was taking pictures because the first thing I saw was like this huge heap of trash that was filling up an entire room. And so I was taking pictures of that room, and it was very dimly lit. And there was this one room, like within this room, it almost looked like there was a skylight in the back, but it was like just a hole in the ceiling, and the whole room was just like this heap of trash, like endless amounts of trash in like this hallway type of bedroom like room. And then in the back corner there was just this drop of light coming down, and so I was trying to take pictures, but I was using my film camera, and I tried not to use the flash, but I think I used it once. So I took pictures in there, and when I went to the left, there were clothes hanging that looked like they were just newly hung, like newly washed. There was like some bedding, but no mattress. In another room, there was like this little girl's like princess, like a pink rug that had like some sort of character, like a princess on it. I kept going, and when I went into this first room on the right, it was like kind of a cleaner room. And there's this really pretty broken mirror like up in the windowsill, just like against it, and I was taking pictures of that, and I could tell Simon was outside, and I could hear him. But what I realized very soon is that there was almost, well, we'll just say 75% chance that there was someone living there, but more specifically, someone actually in that next room at this point. But these pictures were so good that I just couldn't, I had to keep taking the pictures. And the reason I knew there was probably someone living there was because the door was just slightly ajar, but it was practically closed. You couldn't see through it. But there was like this jacket hanging right on the corner of the top of the door, like stopping it from shutting completely. But it was closed, and it was the only time I'd seen an actual door functioning as a door and it being closed in any of these spaces. And I couldn't hear anyone, but I was thinking if someone heard me and my like click, click, click shutter like going off, that either they were going to stay completely quiet to avoid me knowing that they were there, or they were going to maybe try and rob me if they were very poor and they needed something. And so I was thinking of all these things, and my heart was beating so fast, but I just wanted to get these pictures, and I thought they'd been silent for so long that hopefully they were just sleeping. And I didn't want to yell for Simon. I tried to kind of like look out the window, but I didn't want him to see me necessarily and make any noise, so I continued to take pictures. I even went over into the next room where there was just, I don't know, these beautiful two like windows with this light, and everything was kind of, the wallpaper, the walls were like just ripping off, and then I got like one last picture, I think, of just the hallway, and then I kind of ran down the stairs and went outside, and my heart was beating really fast, and I was just quickly probably telling Simon what was going on, and he couldn't really believe it. He, like, as I was kind of updating him on my whole situation in there throughout the day, he just kept feeling worse and worse about not being in there with me. But I was glad I got the pictures. But the craziest part is after a little bit when we climbed up on top of one of the main buildings through like a couple of weird ladders. We saw this guy walking really slowly, like looking kind of tired and out of it. And we'd seen a few other people, like maybe 6, 7, actually maybe like 9, because there were 3 sets of 3 people somehow who had been also visiting this area and maybe taking pictures and just exploring. But we saw this one guy by himself, and then we saw him picking berries, and we realized that he was probably the guy that was living in there. But he didn't look like, he looked harmless, but still, it was pretty crazy. Like, kind of the reality for Simon that there was actually someone in there was a little bit crazy to him, and I just, I had this feeling, but it was very eerie. But I think it was worth it. I of course feel bad, but I don't, at least I didn't wake him up. At least maybe he didn't know I was there, and he didn't even pay attention to us up on the roof. But yeah, after Simon got cut, it was kind of a weird cut because it was like a thicker piece of glass. It was like sticking out of one of the windows that had been broken. We ended up going back to his house. First, we stopped to get all of the ingredients for the hors d'oeuvres because we were going to April's event that night. And so we got the ingredients, then we went back to his house, got washed up. And then what else did we do? I think we ended up getting back on a bus going east, and we went out into the middle, like the very, very end of Berlin, like the most eastern point. I guess it was still Berlin. But there was this one point when we just got too far out, and I was kind of thinking like, oh, where's the next S-Bahn? Maybe we should head home. And then finally Simon was like, maybe we should head home. We finally got back on the S, and I got this really weird thing. Well, it's probably not that weird. I'll be right back. I kept it because I'm not like a weed smoker or anything, but I've never seen anything like this before. So if you can see it, it says the original cannabis iced tea. And you smell it, and it kind of smells like weed. You drink it, and it's like, it tastes like sweetened iced tea, but as like you're taking like, that smell or like that essence of like, that lingers. Yeah, it tastes like weed. I felt like maybe I was kind of high. I'm not really. I don't know. I don't smoke that much because I tend to just fall asleep. But yeah, I drank that, and I even tried FaceTiming one of my friends back home because I thought he would really appreciate it, but he didn't answer. But I'm assuming he saw the picture of it. But yeah, that was at this S-Bahn stop, the very far end of town. And then we headed back in. I think I was tired, lay down for a little bit. We put together these lovely, what we decided to call, well, Simon's name for it was cucumber concoction. It was these sliced cucumbers with honey, sesame seeds, dill, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. And they got kind of soggy, but when I moved them over from like one sheet of parchment paper to the other, then they kind of got a little bit better. And somehow when we got to the event, no one dropped them because I tried putting these toothpicks through, but it was just like you had to kind of like scoop it up with the toothpick and make sure you got it, and everyone kind of knew exactly the protocol for it, and everyone ate them, so it was pretty good. Yeah, and then I ended up going back to Simon's place last night. I should have probably come home, like I said earlier, but I'm glad that I stayed there because he has a much more comfortable bed than mine, so maybe I got a better night's sleep. And I got on the wrong train for the first time since I've been here. I had like some interesting interactions with people, just smiles, which I was surprised by. Kindness, not that German people aren't nice, but I'm not used to everyone smiling back at me. I had a nice walk through a park, woke up to some good text messages about my dogs. Those are always the best. And from this guy that I'd been dating before I left town, and we haven't been keeping that good of touch, but he's just been kind of checking in, which has been really nice. Yeah. So that's kind of it. I think I'm going to eat this pastry, and then maybe I'll see you later.